in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
We're live. All right. Good morning, everybody.
Good
morning. Good morning. Glad to see you. My name is Wes Hudgens, not Jennifer McFerrin, and this is my co-chair.
My name is Nacy Dolar, not Pam Kidwell. From the Business Innovation Center, Gulf Coast State College.
Great, thank you. Yeah, Wes Hudgens with Gulf Power. Excited to be here with you all this morning. Excited for our roundtable discussion today on accelerators and incubators and the role that they play in a thriving entrepreneurial ecosystem. Before we kind of roll into our agenda, I want to say thank you to the Doolittle Institute for providing us with this opportunity to share this meeting via live stream on YouTube. Steve and Caroline, thank you so much. Appreciate your partnership. All right, with that, let's go ahead and get started.
All right.
With introductions.
So keeping with the spirit of the way things have been going with our Entrepreneurship and Innovation Council, we always start off with some really fun icebreaker type of question for introductions. So we want your name, your organization that you're a part of, as well as what event in Northwest Florida is your favorite event to go to. So those of you that are on the phone, we'll get to you as well. Just a reminder, just a little housekeeping thing, just a reminder, put your phones on mute as well. So let's get started with the introductions. Do you want to start?
Sure. My name is Patrick Rooney. I'm the business coach at CoLab in Pensacola, Florida. My favorite event would probably be the I-10 Wired Summit in October on Pensacola Beach.
Awesome.
Co-hosted by Florida West Economic Development Alliance and IT Gulf Coast.
Thank you.
I'm Bob Foster, Program Coordinator of the Veterans Florida Entrepreneurial Program at University of West Florida. And I'll second I-10 Wired.
I'm Bob Bennett, general consultant. My favorite thing.
Community and Economic Development at Gulf Power Company, and I have to say that my favorite event in Northwest Florida is the Gulf Power Economic Symposium. October 10th, 11th, and 12th this year on Thursday and Friday, and registration is opening this week.
I'm Steve Millaway from Tech Farms in Panama City and Tech Farms Capital, and without a doubt, my favorite event here is the Gulf Power Symposium.
I'm Justin Tate. I'm here on behalf of Tech Farms Capital, and I'm going to second that. That's where Steve and I met in 2016.
My name is George Wallach. I'm with the Center for Entrepreneurship at UWF as an MBA, and my favorite is Entrepreneur.
Pamela Kidwell, the Director of the Business Innovation Center and Corporate College at Gulf Coast State College, and I have to give a third to the Gulf Power Symposium, October 10th. Be sure and register. It sells out every year.
All right, Kelly Reeser with Florida West Economic Development Alliance. I'm Manager Incubation Program, CoLab Pensacola. And I'm going to go non-business related, and it's a new event in Northwest Florida, but we've loved it the last 2 years. It's called Ciclovia. It's basically Pensacola open streets, being out, riding bikes with our 5, 3, and 1-year-old, which is a blast this year. Usually it's in the springtime, but love that.
How about you, Karen? Steve?
I'll come out from behind the camera here. Hi, I'm Carolyn Fries. I'm the director of the Doolittle Institute, and I've been here for a couple of years. We do work for the Air Force Research Labs in the areas of innovation and collaboration, technology transfer, and workforce development. In particular, we run the Florida Northwest Region STEM program for FIRST Robotics. Thanks, everybody.
Hey, I'm Steve Bailey. I'm a new member of the Doolittle Institute team. Glad to be here at Northwest Florida.
How about those of you who are on the phone? Can you introduce yourself, an organization, as well as a favorite event in Northwest Florida?
This is Lawrence Tinker.
Hi, Lawrence.
I'm with the Florida Institute for the Commercialization of Public Research, and my favorite event is it was May. We did 4 or 5 years in a row back in the day. Anyway,
Next.
And I'm Ashley Benoit. I'm a commercial lender here at First Bank and Trust in Grand Boulevard in Jetson, near my beach area. And really, by far, Entrepreneurial, I have to say, is my very favorite. I'm from Pensacola originally, so I'm partial.
Nice. Thank you. Is anybody else there?
Hey,
this is
Holly Gardner from the Naval Surface Warfare Center, Panelist City. I'm helping lead some of the innovation initiatives here on our command, as well as setting up that whole innovation center here. So I'm going to have to say one of my favorite events, of course, is the Gulf Power Economic Symposium. And I'm also really looking forward to the Women's Workplace Symposium that we have going over here in Bay County and Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you. Anybody else on the phone? I heard somebody else trying to speak over there. Okay. Well, we had somebody just walk in. Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. Sorry to put you on the spot, but we're doing introductions and we're doing name, organization, and a favorite public of Northwest Florida event.
Okay. My name is Joe Lacis. I'm a commercial realtor with Coldwell Banker Commercial NRT in Pensacola. I'm also an independent business consultant and have been involved with some of the entrepreneurial efforts in Pensacola. And my favorite, what is it now? Event in Pensacola. I would have to say that one of my favorite events is the art festival that goes on in Pensacola, and the Seville Square area has fond memories for me for being here for about 16 years. Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right.
Macy, yours?
Oh, well, my favorite event is actually also non-business related, but the public eyesore in downtown Panama City. It's very cool. It's got lots of images out in the public, and I think that's one that's really fun for downtown Panama City.
Great. So mine, I'm going to go non-business related just for this one. I'm actually chairing this year the Pensacola Crawfish Festival. Now, if you mud bugs, I don't actually eat them, but I'm excited about this one. So I'm going to say the Pensacola Crawfish Festival just for that reason. Great, a lot of great events going on. Thank you all for sharing. I'm excited to kind of hear about some of these and maybe get plugged in at some of them. So, all right.
Well, thank you everyone for coming.
Absolutely. Good stuff. Well, so with Macy and I kind of taking the helm, if you will, of the Entrepreneurship and Innovation Council, we thought what better time to kind of circle back on the why. Why are we here? Why are we meeting? What are we planning to do? How are we going to make an impact? And in order to do so, we thought we would just kind of backstep and review real quickly, maybe for the benefit of everyone. I know some of you have been here from the beginning, but kind of review how we got here and what we're doing here to make an impact in Northwest Florida. So I don't know, about 2 years ago, Florida's Great Northwest partnered with TIP Strategies to help us come up with a regional strategy that really took into account all of our assets, infrastructure, colleges, workforce, all of those things, to create a regional strategy that would make us the best we could be, that could really grow us in our economy and help us provide prosperity for all. So as part of that overall strategy, there were some goals that were created. We here for the Entrepreneurship and Innovation Council are working on goal number 4. And that goal is to foster robust entrepreneurship and innovation ecosystems to drive future economic growth. So a pretty broad goal, and to that point, there were some sub strategies that were kind of created as part of that. So sub-strategy 4.1, develop the region's entrepreneurial hubs and connect them with industry clusters, assets, services, networks, facilities, tools, and expertise. Really connectivity. And I think we've kind of done that in the beginning here with the asset map that's been created and solidifying that, and really identifying all of those assets out from the get-go. Sub-strategy 4.2 was to establish commercialization tools and programs connected to the region's national security, research, and technology assets. This meeting earlier this month with this council took a deep dive into what are those assets and how can we capitalize on the research and technology that's happening right here in Northwest Florida. Sub-strategy 4.3, increase access to capital for Northwest Florida entrepreneurs and develop a formal mechanism to access funds. We've also done a deep dive into access to capital here in Northwest Florida and talked about some of the ways that we can support maybe the formation of angel networks. At the last meeting, we talked about maybe a way to work with regional investors. Welcome. Work with regional investors to expand seed fund opportunities, but there's certainly some opportunities within that strategy there. 4.4, encourage local entrepreneurs and innovators to tap into federal funding and the small business innovation research and small business technology transfer grants. We talked about this at our last meeting, and possibly looking at a workshop or something here in the near future. I think there's been some that have went on previously, but can we pull something like that together to increase the awareness about those opportunities, maybe help some of our local entrepreneurs qualify, apply, and be awarded some of those grants to bring some of that money back. Promote rural entrepreneurship. Certainly some work can be done here as we kind of think as a group on how we might promote that rural entrepreneurship. Sub-strategy 4.6, market regional entrepreneurship success stories. I'm sure all of you in the room probably know some more about those success stories than I do, especially from each of the different communities here in Northwest Florida, but we have a lot of them. And how do we create a buzz around some of the work that's going on here, some of the success stories for the entrepreneurs who have been able to grow their businesses right here in Northwest Florida. How do we create that buzz and share that story? And then 4.7, support entrepreneurial programs and curriculum in the K through 20 continuum to foster a culture of innovation and cultivate an entrepreneurial spirit in the region. This next meeting, May the 22nd for us, we'll be taking a deep dive and looking at some of the training and curriculum available in K through 12 and post-secondary institutions here in Northwest Florida. So looking forward to that discussion, talking about how we might grow that talent pipeline and encourage our young people to get involved in entrepreneurship. So great stuff, pretty broad strategy, challenging work. Appreciate all of you and your time and experience and expertise and engagement in this work. I think it's kind of hard sometimes to maybe step back and see, are we really making progress though? And I'll submit to you that really we are. Their progress is being made, both Nacy and I, in talking about this work and kind of getting introduced to it. We found 4 just kind of broad positive outcomes that have come from this. Many of you probably have some ideas in your head about maybe how this work has impacted you on a personal level, maybe within your organization, maybe within your community, or on a regional level. But kind of broadly, building relationships. One big positive outcome from this work is building relationships. I think that's probably pretty easy to kind of overlook sometimes. But given a region of our size, I think it's critical that we invest in networking, collaborating, partnering to foster innovation and entrepreneurship here and grow that sector. Identifying opportunities. I think part of the work here is to kind of identify those opportunities, to see what might work in other areas that maybe we could do here to grow this entrepreneurial ecosystem. One of them that kind of comes to mind to me, it's kind of fresh to me, I'm new to this, but 1 million cups. Now I know in Pensacola that work would have happened anyhow, but the discussion about maybe kind of growing it in Fort Walton or Panama City and maybe having those discussions is something of an opportunity for us to kind of look at. And I think that's because of some of the work we're doing here. Aligning resources, I think of the Center for Entrepreneurship Asset Map, the Northwest Florida Entrepreneurship Ecosystem Asset Map. There's a lot to get out there. But really just kind of aligning our resources, setting those out, identifying them, and seeing how we might support enhancing those opportunities. Sharing ideas, again, best practices, learning new things, taking those things back to our community to make a difference. And so overall, we really are moving the needle. We are strengthening our ecosystem here in Northwest Florida, and it's really because of all the work of you guys, all of your experience, you ladies, everyone in this room. So thank you so much for all of your time. And hey, good morning, guys. So real quickly, we thought we would highlight a new opportunity for us. One thing we identified was, can we create a calendar to maybe share some of the events that are going on here in Northwest Florida as it relates to entrepreneurship and innovation. So we do have now access to a calendar on Northwest Florida 4. Jim, thank you.
This is Jim Clark, stopping the show.
Jim Sparks, yeah, Jim Sparks. You set me straight here.
Sorry, guys. The go-to meeting is showing this to you, and so you can't actually read the slides very well, but I don't know how to switch it back.
Anybody know how to switch it back? Yeah.
Oh, you have to look up here.
Well, I'll say it. No. Jim, we're glad you showed up here.
Hey, I'm
today.
always here to create disruption.
Yeah. You're not being very Supermanish.
Little duplicated slideshow.
Oh, now you're working.
Here we go, here we go. And we're on.
Always happy to break into things.
Almost.
All right, I'm gonna do this to get that out of the way for everybody. Okay.
Nice.
Thank you so much.
Jim.
Jim Sparks, everybody. Good deal. Thank you so much. So, we have a calendar now. We have access to the Northwest Florida Forward website. It's not buried too deep there on the website, but we can share events and things with the public that are going on here in Northwest Florida to grow that entrepreneurial ecosystem, that spirit. Two of those things that we have coming up is 1 Million Cups and the Invention Convention at Gulf Coast State College. Kelly, if you want to share real quickly, maybe just a quick highlight of the 1 Million Cups effort at Pensacola.
Absolutely. So, good morning again, everyone. Kelly Reeser. I'm a member of the volunteer team for 1 Million Cups Pensacola, and we launched week before last. We had an incredible event. We had our first presentation was actually on 1 Million Cups. We pitched as if we were 1 Million Cups presenters. Our lead organizer, Kinsey, did that. And it was great to just kind of bring the audience up to speed on what we've been working on and what is 1 Million Cups. And then we had our second presentation was by a young man. Does that show my age? He might be 30, I don't know, 29. But he is a veteran, he's a student, and he is extremely well-spoken, but has a very interesting and well-articulated value proposition for making coconuts grown in Florida the next big thing. So he had a great presentation. He presented for about 5-6 minutes, and then we had audience feedback, which is the format of 1 Million Cups. And the feedback was so awesome. I was so energized by the end of it. Everybody had, well, have you contacted this person? Have you reached out to this resource? What is it that you need? And I know from people who circle back with me via email that some of those needs are being met. There's meetings being arranged for him. So basically it's stirring up that entrepreneurial activity. It's making those connections, and that first event did exactly what we wanted. So we are hosting that event mostly every 2 weeks. We're setting it on a second and fourth Wednesday cycle of the month in Pensacola. Steve helped me with some of the specifics of the live streaming. So hopefully tomorrow's event will be live streamed on our YouTube channel. Website is the number 1 millioncups.com/Pensacola. That'll connect you to our community, and then you can. There should be a link on that site that allows you to link to our YouTube channel where things will be live streamed. The interesting piece about this, it's designed to grow your entrepreneurial community, but your presenter's not necessarily going to be a homegrown entrepreneur. So our presenter tomorrow is a gentleman who is from South Florida. This will be his 6th or 7th 1 Million Cups presentation. And you do have to, organizers, you will have to screen for, is this just somebody looking to generate sales? But this guy's got a very interesting take on why he's coming to these different communities to present. So tomorrow's presenter will be two presentations, one called Startup Bus and one called Course Align. It'll be the same guy presenting, but I think it's going to be definitely interesting. It'll stir, again, that entrepreneurial conversation. I think those in attendance will be able to pick his brain, ask him some questions, and again, just have a great meeting over the 1 Million Cups of Coffee that we're present in Pensacola tomorrow. So if you're in Pensacola tomorrow, 9 a.m., Co-work Annex, join us. Thank you so much. Awesome.
Great. Thank you, Kay. Exciting opportunity there. If you're able to attend, please do. Great work that's going on there. So thanks so much. The other is the Invention Convention. I forgot my notes on that one. I don't want to mess it up, so let me just grab that real quick. Sorry. Invention Convention. Emmanuel Hernandez sent these over and said, hey, look, if you'll just share this, this event is actually a partnership among Florida State University, Panama City, Gulf Coast State College, the Naval Surface Warfare Center, Panama City Division, and Bay District Schools to grow the interest in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics that perpetuates a pipeline of expertise for our local military, public, private enterprises and assures access to successful careers for our youth. Man, that was a long sentence. But a great event, exciting event to help promote the STEM academic opportunities with the students. So students and local companies will be showcasing and demonstrating some of their inventions and technologies. So a great opportunity over in Panama City with the Invention Convention. We would ask if you have some events that you'd like to share, and I know we heard some at the last meeting but didn't get very much feedback from the group, please share it with either Nacy or I so that we might get that information included on the calendar and share it with the general public. We'd appreciate it. So that's enough for me. I'm gonna hush up here and invite Mr. Pat Rooney up. He's gonna be our moderator today for our panel. Most of you probably know Mr. Pat Rooney, serial entrepreneur, successful serial entrepreneur, business coach at the Co-Lab in some of his spare time. But excited to have him here, and so I'm going to leave this with you. You probably don't need that, but thank you so much.
Thank you, Wes, and thank all of you all for attending, both in person via the web conference and also the web streaming event. We'll be taking some questions of folks as we kick off the panel. First, I'm going to introduce them and ask them to join us up front here. I don't see any place cards with reserved seating, so I'll just take them in the list here. First up is Kelly Reeser, who you heard from just a moment ago on Million Cups Pensacola. She is a director of CoLab Pensacola and responsible for entrepreneurship development in the Florida West Economic Development Alliance. And I am pleased to say that I work with her at the CoLab as her business coach for clients there. Kelly, would you like to say a word?
I think I've said enough. I think we'll go a little bit deeper into obviously CoLab specifically, but I think it's important to understand our kind of upstream relationship with Florida West, but we can talk about that in the structure of our incubator.
Very good. And then next up, Steve Millaway. Steve is a successful entrepreneur and an engineer by trade, and he's the founder of Tech Farms. And I had the pleasure to meet him a few years back in Panama City Beach, a client of mine, and we met at the client. I'll just leave it alone at that and say it was an interesting experience for both of us.
That was like 7 or 8 years ago.
It's been a long, long time ago. It's a small world from the Western Gate to the Sunshine State or the upside, all the way to Panama City. It's a beautiful drive on Highway 98. And then Pam Kidwell is going to join us. She is the director of the Corporate College and Business Innovation Center at Gulf Coast State College. A tremendous asset to the Bay County MSA area on the east side, and an associate for several years now. We've worked together on different projects.
I don't really have anything to add. I'll cover it inside the questions here. Thank you.
We'll let that be an inspiration to our next and final panelist, Bob, who is the program coordinator at Veterans Florida Entrepreneurship Program, and also a serial entrepreneur and a transplant back to his hometown area from Austin, Texas, where he tells me, yes, there's a lot of business, but there's even more cars. Thanks for being here, all of you all today, to share your information with the group and the community at large. So the background here is that we're going to ask questions of them. I will lead the questions, but we'll also take some questions from the audience and participants, wherever they might be. Although I'm not sure how you would propose to take, I guess the phone. Good enough. I'm not sure, and she's got the live stream on. All right then, if you could, each one of you, then we'll start with Bob. If you'd like to just tell us briefly about the program model and any training programs, events, or capital access options you have for the entrepreneurs?
Sure. The program at the University of West Florida is funded by Veterans Florida out of Tallahassee. You do not have to be a student at the University of West Florida. In fact, I think I only have one UWF student in the 20 students that attend my classes. And the idea is to take them from the tip of their pencil, some of them have operating businesses, to making payroll and actually understanding what they're doing, because most of the entrepreneurs mistake the movement of money for profitability. So they're real busy, you know. And the capital access, what is, I think I'm going to give 1 million cups credit for this, is that the good news is we have some new money coming into the Panhandle. And when you have more than one investor, life gets interesting. And so most pleasantly, last week I had 2 investors fighting over 2, I call them my companies. The coconut veteran is one of my students, and then I have, most of you know about the beach table veteran too. And so they are now both, and a third one who has a anti-texting technology, are being fought over by angel investors. So this is a good sign for the Panhandle.
Good, thank you.
The Business Innovation Center actually started out as an independent, standalone operation, not connected really to any university or college. We were housed in on the campus of Florida State University for a time and had a successful program. And that was when we had incubation with clients coming in. We were scalable, being viable, and being able to tie to some sort of technology was the way to get into the center. And we took them from through all the processes from the accounting side, the hiring side, the legal side. We offered all the general practices of an incubator. We've moved that operation, and we are now connected to Gulf Coast State College. We have not, we do not intend to currently hold incubation other than virtual. We are still working with clients. We have some of the same clients that we've had from the beginning of time of opening the center as it relates to virtual, but it's progressed into a situation where we work with them in their sites versus ours. And at current levels, I don't feel the necessity of having space. If we do, we would actually toss it to tech farms, which you'll hear from next. As it relates to access to capital, we have not really truly had the ability to have a lot of success other than what we know that is local. Normally we go the commercial route. We have found that to be the most successful way to get into business, either bootstrapping or going through commercial lenders.
So I guess Tech Farms sort of indirectly got it started about 10 years ago when those of you familiar with the Advanced Technology Center, Gulf Coast State College, I was involved in the early planning of that, and we were back then planning an incubator to be part of it. In the end, that did not happen. So I got a lot of pressure from the people at the college and the community to maybe start one on the outside. So that's kind of how Tech Farms got started. So I think most of the people here, a lot of them have actually been to Tech Farms. So we're basically a combination of 3 different things: co-working, makerspace, and most of all, incubator. And our primary goal is to create higher paying jobs, tech jobs, throughout Northwest Florida. And we all know the story there. We need to diversify. We've got tons and tons of military, tons of tourism. So we really need these higher paying jobs. And along the way, we realized that one of the big, factors in growing businesses is access to capital. We've had lots of discussions here over the last 2 or 3 years. But we started Tech Farms Capital, which is a angel fund. We're focused on Northwest Florida with one fund, and another is going to be the 3 states, Florida, Georgia, and Alabama. So we're trying to do a lot of things, and we got a limited amount of resources, but we're giving it a go.
Thanks, Steve. Kelly?
So can I ask how many, what's your square footage? What's your footprint?
We have about 10,000 square feet today.
And that is under the 1 building or?
2 buildings.
Can I ask one other question about tech farms? What are your kind of qualifiers or requirements to participate in your either makerspace or incubation?
Right, it's very low cost. If you look at our website, co-working is like $85 a month. People can come in and get access to a facility. We have fiber connection to the internet. We have the makerspace area, electronics lab. If you want to run a business out of the location and have like a dedicated office with U.S. mail delivery, signage, all that kind of stuff, it's about $250 a month.
And they have to be tech companies or some scalability?
Not necessarily, but we like it to be tech companies. And there's a kind of a saying out there, almost every company today is a tech company, if you think about it. The requirements to be social media and technology, if you're not a tech-oriented business, no matter what you're doing, you're probably missing out. So, but yeah, we're really trying to appeal to the the technical types, so software developers, engineering types.
Yes.
Aside from, and I know a little bit, not to be dangerous, but maybe you two can illustrate the differences between what Tech Farms does and what CoLabs does. And one, we have up here incubator, accelerator, and some people have different definitions of that. And also, and again, for my application, because I think that Kelly's is quasi-government or government funding, and you're not. Is that correct?
It's just private funding.
Okay, thank you. So maybe you can do that. I think that would be helpful for people.
Sure. I think Kelly's really the expert on that end of it, so I'll let her have that.
I felt like that was a good soft lob. Sometimes for a while. All right. So yeah, absolutely. I'll reference an organization called the International Business Innovation Association, INBIA.org. It's the industry association for incubators. Used to be the National Business Incubation Association. They've kind of broadened their horizons to encompass acceleration programs, co-work spaces, etc. So INBIA.org for reference. I'll give you their definition and usage of incubator versus accelerator. So simply put, an incubator is a longer term play. Oftentimes it's physical space. Most of the time it's a physical space that brings in a company for a 3 to 5 year, could be longer, could be shorter period of time, and helps and assists with elements of entrepreneurial community, cost containment so that you can reinvest in your company. There's training programs, but it's not the intensity nor structure of what we'll reference as an accelerator. And I know Bob will be able to kind of bring to bear some information on running an acceleration program in Northwest Florida, because we currently, with Venture Hive, is the only accelerator that we've had in recent years. And an accelerator would be more of you apply, it's cohort based, so it's a small select group of companies. They go through a contained period of time, but the intensity is much higher. So typically it's a 3 to 4 month period. There's intense oversight from the program managers, intense mentorship. These again are the common elements, and usually there's some element of seed capital that would say you take if you have a great business idea, you're working towards putting a team together, you've got a team, take 3 or 4 months out of your daily life, move to Fort Walton Beach, move to San Francisco, move to Cleveland, and work exclusively on this business for an intense period of time, 3 or 4 months, whatever that would be. And then oftentimes it's culminating in a pitch to an investor group. So again, that by the virtue of what you're hoping to get at the end, you can kind of reverse engineer the qualifications that typically are required. Sometimes you're seeing acceleration programs. I heard one of never heard of the town Telluride. If you're Telluride, Colorado, apparently real swanky ski town in Colorado. But they had an accelerator focused on health and wellness businesses. And so again, you would say like granola style businesses. Could be food products, but it could be things geared towards crunchy granola. Anyway, so that was their focus and their emphasis. So they were able to draw applicants from all over the country, even all over the world, because they had this laser focus on this industry type. And so apparently when you have that laser focus, you've got mentors that align with that industry. You've got connections into that industry so that you're increasing the chances of success for that entity. So do we all agree with and/or are we okay with those definitions of accelerator versus incubator?
There's many hybrids of that version. Yes, that's the INBIA version. In essence, an incubator is a newborn, and accelerator is a toddler.
Right.
And it's just you're taking the different steps. It's more accelerator is more. There's more time that you need to invest on a daily basis. So there's a lot of. She's spot on as it relates to the definitions as given out by INBIA. I feel like there are companies and organizations that are out there who are attempting to pivot to a hybrid that would in fact be beneficial for either their market or their participation levels. And the choice for us to go virtual was because we didn't have the ability to keep space, because especially being a state organization, a state college, we didn't have the ability to have empty space sitting there for the need of what might be coming. And so we're sort of, if I say, we're sort of the hybrid that I'm talking about, where we're taking some of the elements of all of it and putting it in with the Business Innovation Center. If we fill up Steve's place, if we have the ability to fill up Steve's place, then we'll probably ask Steve to grow.
When you fill up, not it. When.
No, well, I'm talking about us. Steve will definitely fill it up. I'm just saying if we were to be responsible for doing that, it would be a fact of him growing it more.
I use the word spam across both the incubator and accelerator, and that stands for typically you give them space, P for resources, we'll figure that out in a minute, A for access to capital, and M for mentoring. And it's just at a different level. And the reason I use P for resources is because I couldn't come up with a word with R in it, but you'll never forget it. So actually you could say pre-sources, because they're typically companies that need access to copiers and machinery and stuff like that. They can't afford to buy it. Here's an example of an accelerator here at Fort Walton Beach. Gentleman, 53 years old, Air Force engineer, comes to the class, accelerator class, and I say, what do you do? And he says, I build recreational aircraft, two-seat recreational aircraft. Some of you will remember this. I said, really? I said, so these are the experimental? He said, no, these are FAA approved. Really? So where do you build them? In my backyard. Actually, I took over half of our house. We was out there spraying all sorts of poisonous stuff on metal. But and I said, well, that's super. He said, yeah, I'm back ordered 7 months. I said, what? He said, yeah. I said, really? How much are you selling these things for? $75,000 a pop. How are you marketing them? Well, I don't need to. I said, it's just word of mouth. And I said, well, a bunch of pilots, from United and Delta. No, actually, it's guys like you, Foster, who decided that, they've done everything else crazy in life. Might as well go up 10,000 feet and see what it feels like. And I said, really? And I said, well, what's the, he says, I don't know what to do. So here is somebody with an operating business who is cash flowing, and he doesn't know what the word scale means, right? He didn't think about getting a facility. He didn't think about getting additional staff. He needed flight instructors, which of course, Fort Walton Beach, they're everywhere, but he didn't know he's an engineer. Right, so that was the classic. So we got him a manufacturing engineer, somebody smart on processing, and I don't know if he's actually instituted this yet, but we encouraged him to come up with a one-seater, $20,000 model, and he'd sell them like, popcorn, right? I bought one, maybe. So that's kind of the typical accelerator opportunities I've seen. The incubator is, I don't know if I've seen a few, but mostly these are people with an idea who just really have never done it before, and they need to be somewhere where people can help them out. I want to talk about something other than, and I'll pass the baton here. I want to talk about something we should have something called an inoculator. It sounds funny, but as investors, who do angel investors give their money to to a business plan? No. They give money to people whom they know, right? And so the entrepreneurs think you go, you get a nice slick letter bound, pretty business plan, live plan, you do the presentation, you get a check. No, right? That's typically not the way it happens. Maybe in a hot market, you get a few of those. So what we did in Austin is we convinced 10 companies to give a corner or a server closet or a place in the basement to entrepreneurs at no charge, with the promise that if the company was successful, we'll hit some financial metric, that the company would be able to purchase stock options at a nickel a share. You get the idea? So this is a real story. I want to say Amgen, I always get the company wrong. And I think, Rooney, you've probably heard the story before. Okay, so this is a company that makes reagents that scientists use to test things. So, you know, it's not FDA kind of stuff. So, but they have this giant machine that's a half block long, and, you know, they put all the chemicals in this end, and it crunches and churns, and lights blink, and things whir, and 2 weeks later, the liquid comes out the other end, and it's stuff that they can sell for a lot of money. Except, periodically, you know, piece of dust to get in here, something go wrong, there's no way to monitor, and it would fail, and they would lose like $270,000 just like that. Boom, no recovery, had to start over. Okay, so he took in 2 gearheads, forgive me if you're a gearhead, took in two gearheads who were over there working on some sort of informatic thing, you know, stacks of pizza boxes around, they never bathe, you know, they code 24 hours a day. And so they heard the scientists go, blankety, blank, blank. What's the matter, sir? Well, we just lost another $270,000. I'm gonna get fired. You know, I don't know what to do. So next day, scientist comes in, they're over there in the smocks, the kid's over, he comes over with his apple, and he says, do you mind if I plug this into your machine? I said, what? I said, I promise it won't hurt anything. I said, okay. He goes, so look, you can see everything that's going on, the temperatures, variance, chemical balance, stuff like that. And then Einstein just says, oh my God. He went to get the CEO, who said, oh my God. They tried it for a month, and they put $1 million into the company. You get the idea? They knew the kids. The kids ended up getting part of their business, being part of the business. So we need inoculators. I think that would be the next step. That's where we're going to find our angels, the easy angels. So
that term is duly noted. Thanks.
Thanks, Bob. Very good. Just if you can, I'm just kind of keeping score here on these the agenda of questions. We've nailed a few of these just by the conversational, you know, direction that you all have taken. So I just want to ask you a little bit about opportunities. What opportunities exist locally, which is the Northwest Florida region, to expand services, benefits, and successes of the incubators and accelerator programs? And how do we go about determining feasibility or the demand for those services to be able to support them? I think Pam might have answered ahead when she said Steve would like to put more space. But if you all could kick those thoughts around maybe just for us. And are there any people on the phone that had questions? I don't want to skip by anybody that might have something that's listening in on the conference.
I'd like to throw out one metric, and I'll keep this short. Go ahead.
Go ahead, please.
Oh, we're still here. We're just enjoying the presentation.
All right, super. Thank you. And if there's a question, please don't hesitate to let it be known, and we'll just ask you to introduce yourself and ask a question as they arise. Okay.
Well, one simple metric. Okay. One simple metric. I get 3 to 8 phone calls a week, and if it weren't for Robert Bennett, Patrick Rooney, Greg Miller, Marcia Schuffman, I would be burned out. And these are students who have run through previous Venture Hive classes and students that are going through my current class. And the ones that stay engaged are the ones who are creating jobs. If we had a simple central CRM where every time I got a call, I could log in, hired another employee, needed to know, blah, blah, introducing to Steve Millaway, etc. And so like, that's a very simple metric because some people just come to class and disappear. But the 20% or so who stay engaged are job creators. And it's a simple way, because otherwise you have to go call them up and say, are you hiring? No. I mean, I don't have the bandwidth to do that.
Yeah, just to add to that, one of the biggest opportunities I think we all see in this whole region is the military bases. And I think I heard a metric not too long ago that 11% of the entire U.S. military in terms of headcount lies between Panama City and Pensacola. I heard that, not sure it's true, but it sounds like it could be.
Did you read it on the internet?
So, you know, we actually at Tech Farms, we have leveraged that. I know we have folks here from the Navy base in Panama City today online, but there is an enormous amount of potential to commercialize IP from military institutions and the people that are coming out of there. We had a couple of guys that are retirees from the local base. One was a Navy diver. The other was a Navy civil service guy. And they came into Tech Farms 2.5 years ago with an idea. And I've told the story before, but it's a rebreather technology. They have been doing rebreather devices for the military for 30 years. And it's all underwater. And they had the idea of doing something above water, so land-based. And today they have this vest that you can put on, and it's an oxygen vest, basically, based on rebreather technology. And they're gearing up to sell that worldwide. It's going to be a gigantic business. And, not just mining applications, but there's chemical, biological, applications for the military. There's oil and gas applications. It just goes on and on. So we need to leverage more of that and get access to more of the people that are coming out of our military. And I think Bob's done an excellent job of that in many, many years, trying to leverage those assets and help train those people. But I see that as a gigantic opportunity for the region.
Holly Gardner on the phone wanted to make a comment. Holly?
Hey there, this is Holly. I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of a program I became familiar with, the Hacking for Defense program. It's actually a university class based on innovation and entrepreneurship. And it basically takes government sponsors and DoD problems as well as the intelligence community, and it will declassify problems that have already been curated and bring them to the students. And they basically help lead them through the entire innovation and entrepreneurship process. And in the end, the goal is for some of these students to take it outside the class and actually create businesses and the network through this Hacking for Defense. And it's a nonprofit. And the people running the nonprofit, they've had some really, really successful students from it. And there's actually nobody in the South that's doing it. I think the University of Southern Mississippi is. But I made FSU, the guy in charge of the new innovation hub there, aware of it. And I wanted to make sure that other universities were as well. And if you have any questions about it, I'm not involved with it, but I know who you are, so I'd be happy to pass that information along for you. Yeah, and I see somebody put the link about Stanford. It's not just Stanford. The website is h4ei.org. You can read more about it.
I know staff at the University of West Florida has been trained on how to do it. James, aren't you involved with that?
Barely, but it's Donovan Chow.
Donovan Chow.
Leading it, and it should be a really interesting program.
So UWF is considering implementing it?
We are, we have it on the books for the summer. There'll be a class called Hacking for Defense.
Yeah, Mark Churchwell was trained out of Federals.
So, yes, that's awesome feedback, Holly, because I think whenever people start saying the same thing, I think the timing's right for that. I would love to add as far as opportunity and give credit to this gathering. I think it's this continued conversation of putting the pieces together, I think is our greatest opportunity. I love the term proactive entrepreneurship and proactive entrepreneurial endeavors. And I think part of that is we've gotten that from our commercialization panel. So last month we talked about, commercializing technology out of the university, the research institutions, and the universities. But then it's okay. That's awesome when it happens. I think our commercialization officers, tech transfer officers, are looking at how to spur that connectivity. But then I think it's kind of incumbent upon us as the ecosystem to say, well, what next? When that happens, what is the resource and where is maybe it's a place they can land, what's the access to capital, communication. And so I think that's where this conversation comes into play, is a piece of that, a very important piece of that ecosystem of how can we strengthen our, if it's incubators. I know we referenced, Wes, you referenced the tip strategies. The gentleman who was the kind of the Austin connection, had a lot of entrepreneurship background. He talked about how dated the term incubator is. I don't disagree with him. I mean, because typically when you say incubator, you think of like chickens and eggs and light and heat or whatever. I mean, the concept is still relevant, because it is, bringing in, and I don't want to call them fledgling, because some of them are extremely strong in their beginnings, but it's giving them concentrated resources to help them grow, and they'll become fully baked by the end of it, and go on to be a much more viable business prospect. But I don't think ever actually, if I could back up a little bit and talk just about CoLab and how we're funded and what I don't think I ever went there. So if you guys are okay with that, Florida West is the economic development entity for Escambia County, and about 10 or...
Budgeting and fraud protection easy. It is ideal for budget control, youth spending, online shopping, and travel. And it's concern about our new security first week.
Yeah. Like what happened to the elevator music? Okay, so upstream for us, so Florida West Economic Development Alliance, about 12 years ago, we started focusing on entrepreneurship. We had a head of our economic development division was focused on, at the time, I think the buzzword was tech-led economic development, and he put together a strategy around growing our own. And a key piece of that was doing a feasibility study on, can our community sustain or handle an incubator? In a lot of communities, those incubator programs are run through economic development efforts. In a lot of communities, those incubator programs are run through a university. Our situation and leadership at the time forged a relationship with Pensacola State College. So that is who Florida West and Pensacola State College utilize a state statute, which allows Pensacola State to lease us space at very reduced rates for the purpose of economic development. We have a little bit of latitude in the type of businesses we serve, but they have to be economic development targets. So I have a pretty strict application process, which, if you can again far enough back upstream, you're seeing that we are funded and underwritten by taxpayer dollars. So we can't bring a business in that would just be a competitor with another local business. So I can't underwrite the formation of a restaurant that's just going to compete for dollars from our local geography, because I'm underwriting a competitor to an existing business. Does that make sense? So we're looking for economic development targets, which are what we consider primary industries. The qualifier we put there is if you are doing or have the ability to do the majority of your revenue from outside of the area, which our area is the MSA, Escambia and Santa Rosa counties. If you can do more than half of your revenue from outside the area, bring those new dollars into our community, then we can talk. We are then further constrained by the limitations of the facility. We don't have space for really much of any type of manufacturing. It's an old bank building. Got a lot of walls, got small stairways, and got a mostly reliable elevator when it wants to. And so, so again, that constrains us a little bit. We can't do like manufacturing. We can't do any type of distribution, warehousing. We just no lab space. And so mostly what then that space makes sense for is tech companies. You bring the computer in, you connect to the shared network, and then we go from there. So, so again, that's a little bit about us and our process. We are, again, I would say a longer term play, and I differ a little bit. Maybe this is the MBIA Kool-Aid that I've drank for the last few years, but I would see an accelerator as a first step and an incubator as a next step. So I see that, and I've often seen those programs co-located. So maybe there is a short-term, intense acceleration program that then produces this company that needs, okay, what's then my next 3 to 5 years? And then it locates in an incubator. So that's the way that I've seen. There's a space in Orlando. Again, the University of Central Florida has a very robust incubator network, I think 8 or 9 locations. But then there's also a private space called Canvas, C-A-N-V-S, that I've had the opportunity to tour. Super slick space, awesome. It has it is more of a co-work space / place for businesses to locate. I don't think it would exactly call itself an incubator, but it's definitely an entrepreneurial community. And within that, they have, I forget the branded name of the program, something like Startup Grind or Launchpad or one of those kind of catchy, trendy names. But but twice a year, 3 months at a time, they will rent a space at Canvas. They'll rent a handful of co-work desks, and they will run their acceleration program. And then the goal then is, all right, put these companies through that intensive training, and then they could spin out into this other office space. So does that, yeah.
So I guess one of my questions, both on kind of the role of CoLab, for example, and the program that you're running, Bob, at UWF, and then the opportunities and the transition, and also tying back to your CRM, right now, how do we make those formal baton passes, right? So, or is that one of our greatest opportunities, to your point, Bob? So when you have a company or someone who graduates from your class, do we have a formal assessment or checklist? Like this is the
one way, and the simplest way that we've done that is, okay, you're going to host a competition at the end of your program, and we will, I think we're donating space, if available, if when available, to the winner. And I don't know how deep we went. I think for Startup Weekend, we'll give 3 months of space to the first place winner, and then maybe it's consultation services for the second and third place winners. So it's basically just, okay, how can we take somebody who's proven themselves in some capacity through a competition or through completing a training program, and then let's attempt to bring them into the program.
And we did the exact same thing. We put them in programs from the start of the weekend.
I think part of it too is the Emerald Coast Gumbo. The fact that we circulate. It's like we're interconnected, and that's why the Million Cups and the EEG and this are important, because the people who are doing things, we all keep bumping into each other and say, do you know, how can I, will you? And that gumbo is getting richer and richer. That's what I see.
I feel the Million Cups is it's almost like we're puttering along trying to find ways to add another recipe to the gumbo mix to grow our activities. And I feel like taking on the Million Cup is going to be that next step up as it relates to our ability to coexist in Northwest Florida and grow our place in entrepreneurship. We've had a lot of success stories, but it's almost like they're unlike Orlando or unlike any hub that's had activity going on for a while. We were in the beginning all doing it separately, and now for once we're finally looking to do it together, and we're going to have a hub that we can be recognized nationwide, as something to compete with or to be part of or to coexist together and take opportunities like Million Cup. People who go into the program, he had it, and then it was presented at Million Cup, and then it goes into a program, and then they go off and make lots of jobs for people. I think this is a fabulous next step.
One thing I think that is missing is, could I see a show of hands? How many people in the room are in private sector business? Okay, 1, 2, 3.
Also, I am.
No,
but I'm talking about,
no, you don't count, because utilities are protected.
Say again?
Utilities are protected, so they're not a true private sector.
So utilities don't count. My point is, there are companies in Pensacola, I know, behind the slightly charred palm trees from the last freeze that are doing $40 million, $100 million, $60 million. why don't they have a representative sitting in this room? I mean, really, because we're a good mixture, but we need more people who are already making payroll to be involved with this. They'll get employees, they'll be investors, and so on. I don't know how we do that. Like, I don't pick on Ted Eames, but Avalex, App River, Absolute Consulting. Absolute Consulting is doing like $150 million a year in Gulf Breeze. Navarre, close enough.
One of the missing elements are champions, obviously, from the community. We've known that from day one. And that is absolutely a struggle. But we have to have it from all sectors, in my opinion.
So panelists, thank you. That was our last bullet point, so we're not done. we jumped around just a bit, and I appreciate it because we're covering a lot of the points that were thought of as sort of seeds for conversations. But we're probably going to come back and revisit that question at the end, which is who's missing? Bob sees that problem. I would suggest that is a good question for the rest of us to deal with. Well, so this is a great opening question for each of you all. In the programs and the organizational efforts that you have been engaged in the last years, what are the most important lessons that you've learned in developing those programs, those organizations? Sure. Maybe start with Kelly and move the other way. And
absolutely. So we have some unique opportunities as well as some unique challenges being quasi-governmental. Florida West is a not-for-profit organization, but we do receive government funding so that there are laws that apply to us that wouldn't apply in a private setting. And we've had to learn how to navigate what information we request from the company, such that if someone public records requests our emails, that we're not divulging anything private from the company. So again, a unique challenge to us, but again, it's learning how to work within those parameters. And again, I think I don't have complete freedom to accept anybody I want because of, again, the funding stream. We have a state statute line item vetoes certain non-qualifying business types. And so I've had to, thankfully, I've been able to say yes a whole lot more than I've had to say no, but that is a qualifying consideration when I talk with companies. I'll leave it at that.
Could you repeat the question?
Sure. In terms of your own programs, one of the important lessons, the most important lesson to learn as you have begun and grown and developed?
For tech farms, as far as an incubator, I think one of the best things we did day one, as strange as it may sound, is we invited a small accounting firm to come into our facility. And looking back on that, I think that's one of the best things we did because most all the entrepreneurs that come in, they have their idea, they have their widget, their software program. Setting up the books, finance, accounting, getting outside capital, that's sort of a secondary thought, and they're not very good at it. So being able to hand that off to somebody inside, and it has worked for us because the person has their own business, they're a startup as well. So they already have existing clients. They're not totally dependent on just what's in the incubator. And the other thing I think that has been extremely important is the whole Northwest Florida focus. Going to the events, the IT Wired conference, EntreCon, Go Power Symposium, I've made tons and tons of connections there, and so have the individuals from incubators and co-working. They're working together. We have a partnership with Social Desk, gentleman in the corner over here, David Most-White. We're sharing ideas. We're sharing, some different things having to do with SolidWorks, the software package that is used for 3D modeling. And just in the last 2 weeks, we had a gentleman from Pensacola, who lives in Pensacola, come to Tech Farms for basically a week, signed up. He's doing software development. He's working with another gentleman at the Navy base. And when I heard what he's doing, it just connected me with another individual who was in the week before who's looking for somebody like that to develop an application. put those guys together, and now they're starting a business. So just networking, I can't stress how important it is, just the connections. You know, a lot of these people work out of their houses. They're not really, you know, looking around the whole resource we have across the ecosystem. So get out and, you know, connect with people. And that's one of the lessons I think we've all learned. So.
I say yes to both of those for sure. Communication and networking. You can't hesitate to stall on a project as it relates to the ecosystem. When we, and I'm speaking individually for the Business Innovation Center, when we've not continued to push something and put it out there and keep the message going and keep the communication up and keep the network going, we lose loads and loads. It's kind of like technology. We're dealing in the entrepreneurial world is just like, in my opinion, technology, because when you step back and take a breather and you don't do all the things that he's talking about doing, you lose so much ground because everybody else is still moving and going ahead. So if you're shy about working and staying devoted to a project, it's not for you. The whole world of anybody who's an entrepreneur knows that. But when you have the support, when you're supporting, it's that times 12 because you're trying to stay up with all those things. So I'm not sure. While I've always had an entrepreneurship element in my being, I'm not sure that I really I had to acclimate to the fact that doesn't get any easier. It's going to be that way forever because even though you have successful stories coming out of your entity, they grow up and go on and do great things. You're working with the next one. So it's always going to be that way. And while it seems like a simple thing that you would recognize, it's something that you have to understand. Communication and networking and all that they said.
Yeah, something I've learned, this current class, which finishes May 5th with the pitch competition, is I've recruited 41 vets. I only picked 21. And I had them sign a commitment letter saying that Florida was going to be their place of residence and that they would commit to do the work to the best of their ability. And some of them are still on active duty and have other jobs. And that if they wanted to graduate, they had to have a finished business plan presentation. They had to participate in the pitch on May 5th. They have to open a commercial bank account. They have to form a legal entity that's not a sole proprietorship, LLC or some sort of corporation. And they have to show me 2 years of financials, okay? And that's called skin in the game. And so we did a survey, actually Tallahassee did a survey without asking me, but they did a survey in my class, and the class told where my grant comes from, that they would pay between $3,000 and $7,000 to attend the 15 sessions that we're just completing. They would have paid for it. So what we just got, they rebid every 3 years. We just got the RFP yesterday. I'm going to propose that I'm going to charge the veterans something, $500. They complete 2/3 of the classes, I'll give them $250 of it back, and the other $250 goes in the pot to go toward awards. So skin in the game. And so, and I asked my clients, I asked my prospects, they all said, hell yeah. And the good news is now they're my referrals. When I recruit my next veterans, they'll talk to the existing class. And just as an aside, I'm going to start running classes at the co-work annex, probably twice a month on Tuesday, lunch and learns. They're going to be like, I haven't quite figured out, get with somebody smart me to figure out which topics to start with first. But so that's what's worked.
Cool. And I kind of out of character for me, only honed in on the challenges part. So if I could talk about the positive lessons that I learned as well along the way. So, and this is again feedback from my clients. I would have to say that that my team is by far the greatest value that my tenants have said. And I fluctuate between tenants and clients. Tenants sounds so like perfunctory, but clients, the companies that we serve, my clients' feedback has been that Pat Rooney is immense value to the program.
Rockstar.
And so just his ability, his experience, he brings to our organization, experience having been there, done that, sold stuff, worked in companies, had failures, had successes, and he brings all of that to the table. And also my office manager, Clancy. She's highest rated all the time because she's a smiling face. She takes your issue. It might just be sugar ants crawling across your desk or whatever the facility challenge is, but she takes that to heart and she addresses it. And so the clients that I serve, having somebody that's willing to fight on their behalf, even in the small things, in addition to maintaining the orderliness of the facility with a smiling face, she's gotten very, very high reviews. Something in our rebranding process about 1.5 years ago that I found was feedback saying that there was value in the walls that we had in the facility, because I was feeling like, okay, the trend is going away from incubators as traditionally defined, moving more towards the co-work space model, big, tall ceilings, open rooms, lots of people working, and feeling that in my mind, it's energy. It's like, yeah, that's definitely what we want to be moving towards. But a lot of the companies that have graduated and the current companies said, well, we need the ability to close the door and just be our team. But when we open the door, we want to open the door to a community. And we want to open the door to shared space and shared services. So I thought that was really good. It was kind of validating for us that we were doing some things right. And then the other newest, most interesting thing that I found was even just a request, and this was surveying to training topics, Bob, which if you want to share that information, we can talk later. But asking the clients, what kind of things do you want to learn about? And I was thinking again, these like super slick, progressed, sexy topics of like pitching to angel investors, and like I was like, okay, certainly they want to hear these type of conversations brought to the table. But they asked a whole lot more about small business management issues. So they said, let's bring in somebody that could talk about, like last week, we had a presentation on Legal 101, intellectual property protection, when to trademark, copyright, patent, or otherwise protect what you have. And it was interesting to me, the lights that went off in my client's head when the lawyer actually said, if you have a website, you have intellectual property. And they were like, so just seeing some of those basic, simple steps, they might be serving customers all over the world, but some of those simple business management things that we have to be sure that we're continuing to address, that we're not jumping past the solid foundation of a business entity and structuring. So those are probably my 4 lessons learned.
That is so true, because oftentimes they can't afford a service provider. So here's an example that I got so much positive feedback on. I said, well, I can't afford a CPA. I said, well, take Rooney to lunch. No, get free advice. No, I said, just get a couple of manila folders and you label this when you go, money owed to me, money I owe, money paid to me, everything else. And I said, every day you put something in one of those folders. And once a week you go talk to somebody who, they went, because they have crap all over the place and they're trying to. And I said, once a month, you take it to someone smarter than you who likes to type things, or an accountant, and get things organized, right? Something just that simple. They just all went, oh my God, I never thought of that. I never said all these. Just fundamental, basic, small business operation. And that must have been Devin Schaefer.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. But what you just described, Pam's going to talk about something related to her world, is I had a friend, a consultant, who used to call it blocking and tackling.
Yes.
It's just doing the basic stuff. When you've never been on that field playing in that game, you don't know all the rules and you don't know about blocking and tackling.
We've attempted to, on each planning session, when we're planning for the year, what we're going to do with the Business Innovation Center, we've definitely taken into consideration, and as much because of participation, our rooms are full when we're talking topics that are learning, having the opportunity for the businesses to walk away with something they can actually put in play when they get back to the office. Now we have had speakers that also bring in crowds, but the HR's factor, the room was packed. Cash flow, room was packed. What the relationship with your banker, the room was packed. The most popular, I mean, there's probably 6 that are the most popular. So obviously, when we're planning for what's going to happen the next time we start our sessions, we put those things that our participants have actually told us are important. And you don't really, because I was initially doing the exact same thing, doing the pitch, doing this, doing that. They're looking for help on doing business 101. I had a full room when we had candidates forum for business. It was the candidates that were talking to the business sector, and the room was packed from entrepreneurs who wanted to have input on who was going to be running the show for them. So absolutely, you have to think about it from their perspective.
I was curious, maybe if y'all could speak to maybe a broader regional opportunity. Have we ever had, I think about the UCF model that was referenced, where there's kind of a central anchor point that UCF that has probably significant capacity, and then kind of the tentacles of an incubator here that's maybe focused on this sector, an incubator here that's focused on a different sector. Have we as a region ever thought about what our strategy might be to scale or grow or expand or kind of connect all of those incubation, or I know no longer Accelerator, but formerly programs throughout the region? Or what would pros and cons of that?
On our side, I think I'm sort of kind of in the same place as Kelly is. We have parameters we have to stay inside of because of working out of a college. We have rules and regulations that we have to follow. So we are open to anyone, any sector, which has opened the phone banks up to be very busy, you know, because you're answering a lot of questions that probably would otherwise go to your SBDC or any other resources for startups. So you're probably the better person to have that conversation as it relates to.
We're totally private, so we're open for anything. We're teaming up with anybody that is interested, if it makes good sense. So, you know.
And I should mention, the classes I'm going to be running downtown are for anybody.
And
that's going to be outside.
And so I would like to, as a bank, I'm going to ask a question. I'll pose it with us first. When we opened the doors as the Business Innovation Center, we were technology, scalable, and obviously viable for the market. That, you know, and there was a really more concerted effort to, when you fill out the application, it was pretty strict, and it went through a panel, and you had to make sure, because we had so much limit, we didn't have labs, sort of kind of like Kelly, we didn't have wet labs, we didn't have the manufacturing element. So we had to truly be particular on who we were going to put in space. So we were very, very meticulous in that thought process. I have seen a shift in obviously we had a pivotal moment when we moved to Gulf Coast, but I've seen a shift in, even if I were not at part of Gulf Coast, I would open it up to a more wider, broader view. Can I ask, I know you were more technology when you opened, and you sort of kind of opened the doors. Yours might be the otherwise, but you were more specific when you opened the program. So what was the shift?
Actually, most of the companies going through the class this time are really fundamental. You know, there is technology simply because that's where we are in life. So, for example, one gentleman has lots of experience in healthcare asset management and cost optimization. And in the middle of all that, he goes in, right? He's a 60-year-old guy who's done it all his life, and he really knows how to do this stuff, and he has references and so on. He says, and I'm going to create a dashboard that will allow but he didn't see that as a product, but he will actually end up getting in bed with somebody in technology to do that. Another gentleman doing $1.3 million a year right here right there in little Pensacola, sells commercial trailers, right? That's not very sexy, but it's very profitable, right? You can't keep the lot full. You get the idea. We have a gentleman who makes fishing lures. Doesn't sound very sensitive, but sexy, does it? Except he's making money, right? You get the idea. So a lot of fundamental things going. And so it's not as technological as you would think, even though there is some tech in there. I think that's probably going to be the next step. When we get some press, anybody from Pensacola News around here? I'm sorry, Northwest Florida News. We get some press for fundamental successes, bite-sized successes that Billie Jean and Bobby Joe and what's the boy's name? Bo, my cousin, can understand. So that will inspire those who are in tech at the university that they can actually succeed too. So anyway, it's a great suit. I mean, it's a great suit.
I just want to make a point on top of that, and I probably sound like a broken record, but there's a lot of this activity going on, and I think that, you know, Bob and Kelly to a degree and Steve, we need to measure and verify the results of this, because there's also been a lot, and I mean, I'm not trying to be negative about it, but there's been a lot of places that have gone through, or companies, I think maybe not a lot, but how you measure it. But to me, the government funding, quasi-government funding, even private funding, where money's been invested in these companies and they've gone through collab and they haven't succeeded, or maybe they kind of succeeded. So I think the measurement verification for sustainable businesses that are going to be successful and going to bring jobs to Pensacola, because I think Bob said earlier, there's a lot of people that obviously aren't here, and so that even people that got their starts in incubators, accelerators. So I think that's important. And what I see in Bob and Steve and Kelly, I just met you, man, is that you guys are really committed, and so we need to. We don't want you to be committed. We want to be committed. So I think that the measurement verification, as far as I'm concerned, of the sustainability to bring results to Northwest Florida, the whole region, is very important to me, and I think that's lacking. So maybe it's suppressed, but it's also, okay, and it can be fishing lures. I've been in some lost passes. I mean, the guys about fishing lures are very passionate, just as passionate about the people with the technology, and I think that's important, because that's their strength and diversity. But we need to have the feedback loop.
And to make it to Pam's question, and then I'd love to jump back to Jennifer's question of, I think we've loosened our requirements in the sense of, I always say innovation or technology-based companies with scalability opportunities. So if it is fishing lures, and you don't need MySpace to actually I don't know, fishing lures are bad examples. You probably assemble a lot of fishing lures in the type of space we have. But as long as you don't need it for production and would need to bring equipment up the elevator that we just couldn't sustain, that I would definitely, entertain conversation with a fishing lure business, because they're looking to sell those lures outside of the community. And so that becomes then, either whether it's manufacturing or value add manufacturing, somehow putting it together, packaging and selling it outside our community. I could definitely, my lease structure would allow for that. I think the regional hubs, I think Tip tried to say, well, we need to centralize it in one location. And I think everybody kind of felt in their gut that didn't really make sense, that a single facility located in Pensacola doesn't service the needs of Panama City. And so I think we kind of disregarded that as viable. But I do think that strategy 4.1, that strengthening the unique hubs and the connectivity amongst those hubs, that's our opportunity. I think that's our space. I'm making notes and mentally making notes of what that would look like. Bob's reference to a shared CRM, where we can kind of like in the nonprofit sector, where I don't know if anybody's ever been involved with charity type assistance, but my husband works in that arena, and somebody came to him and said, well, our family needs this, this, and this, or groceries, or whatever the situation was. And they were able to go to this shared database that they could outline the last, in this case, unfortunately, was that they've gone through every single program in the community.
Is that Shared Hands Network? Is that the Shared Hands database?
HMIS is what Escapee uses.
And so it's just, it's lots of disparate organizations doing lots of unique different things, but they have this shared repository of how to better service that individual. So I thought, definitely there's precedent there. In our case, it does, we've got some unique challenges based on what kind of information we would intake in and input into that system. But but definitely opportunity. And I think that's where this gathering provides value, is us seeing that and then seeing what that, as our programs evolve, what that is going to evolve into next.
So if I might, we have a couple of great questions from the audience outside of the room. I think it's from the streaming site, possibly.
Yes, we have one YouTube viewer who was on the phone. Evidently, they're still having some trouble connecting on the phone. So this viewer wanted to strongly agree that what tech folks need help with is the business basics. We engineers / tech-minded folks can come up with great ideas, but have no idea how to execute. So just somebody supporting what you folks were saying already.
Thank you.
And another questioner who asked a great leading question, actually kind of a threefold. So listen to the three parts. One is, could each of you share a success story of a business that you've worked with? And can you tell us, where were they when you first met them in their state of existence, if you will? And then where are they today? So a success story of someone you worked with, from where were they in the beginning to where are they today? So Kelly, you want to start with that way?
Absolutely. I've got a couple of great ones, just in part. Our most recent graduate, we haven't even done like a ribbon cutting at their new facility yet, but is a company called Intelligent Retinal Imaging Systems. And if you've been anywhere in Pensacola in the last 3 to 5 years, you've heard about them. The success chain goes, doctor, retina specialist identifies a need in the marketplace, builds a team around that opportunity. They come to us. They actually just moved out at the end of March, but February was kind of their 5th year in our program. And the phrase that they would use, or the phrase that I would use maybe, they came to us with 6 employees. They left with 27 employees, which is awesome. They came in, actually, I looked back at their application and they said they had 0 revenue. I don't know if that's exactly true, but they left in the millions in revenue, and definitely with a status of an industry leader in this specific niche that they're at. And so I would definitely say that success, they had the investment from this doctor, which you would say, oh, seemingly has endless resources. Not necessarily the case, but they had built a good, solid investor team. They were able to, the phrase I don't think I ever said out loud, but the phrase in my mind that they would say is they were allowed to contain their costs initially. The leasing mechanism that we have with the State College allows us to lease space to entrepreneurs at below market value. So they were able to then, that's our investment as a community, I guess, our investment in their business, because we can't really specifically put cash dollars in their pockets, but we were able to allow them to contain those costs such that they could reinvest in the business and then and grow their business by way of revenue, go to market faster than perhaps they would have otherwise. It's a tough story to tell, because had they not entered our space, would they still be successful? But were we able to assist them in their success? I do believe so, and they would say so. So that's one. They were a software. They were developing software that paired with an existing hardware, eye scanning hardware, that then allowed the diagnosis of diabetic retinopathy and glaucoma specifically. They allowed that to be diagnosed sooner, such that they were accomplishing their vision and mission of ending preventable blindness. And as far as a mission statement, I think they nailed it. I think it's a really noble cause. So they were great. An awesome success. And can I share a second one real quick? Super fast. Was a company that started out as an event management company. They hosted glow rage parties. And they started out, they came in to our program with a goal of scalability. They said, well, right now we're limited by the number of the capacity of our individuals to host an event in a weekend. So they maybe could do 3 parties in one weekend. And their business model shifted and adjusted. I'll tell you all that. I can give you all those details later offline if you are curious, but their business model shifted and adjusted such that they were able, by the time they exited our facility about 1.5 years ago, they had their biggest weekend and they were able to host 67 parties across the world in one time. So they turned the key on that logistics scalability piece. So all of that connections we were able to help them make, conversations with our business coach, and again, containing that cost such that they could invest that money back into the growth of their business. So both out in our community, I guess it was Joe that was talking about it. Measure of success is that they're both out in the community occupying, commercial space, a warehouse in a kind of a community redevelopment district for the event company, and then rehabbing a historic property in the case of Iris. So both of those making our community better, and again, growing jobs and growing revenues in our community.
Is there a name? What's that company?
Absolutely. They, I think their parent company name is Glow Rage. They came into our program under the name Paint You, which was the division of their business that was pursuing contracts with university campuses. And that was one way they pivoted to have more secured revenue, was they would partner with Residence Life, student housing programs on university campuses, and host these parties. And then they also, I guess the second pivot or iteration of their business within the time they were with us was to partner with DoD and military bases. So they were like, we were in Djibouti and hosting this, Glow Rage party through the Morale Welfare Office. So interesting stories.
Steve?
I'll share a couple real quick. One, we had a lady from the Navy base about 2 years ago, came in with an idea to basically go down to South Florida, buy these little small starter plants that are hard to find, brings them back to Panama City into Tech Farms, sets up an e-commerce site, and within 6 months, she's profitable. It's amazing. She was charging like $12 to $15 for these little plants and buying them for 50 cents. So there's a case where anybody can do that. She had a skill, the e-commerce site, and she loved gardening and all that. So that took off, like a weed, and she was moving out in 6 months.
But it was a pretty weed.
Right. So the other one we talked about is the two guys from the Navy base that started Mind Survival Inc. And again, these guys, knew absolutely nothing about business. When they first came in and they pitched at Tech Farms, it was, and they don't mind me saying this, but it's an unmitigated disaster. They had no idea, how to set up a business. They were talking about a world domination view, all the stuff on the board. And 2 hours later, I was just, in a daze. So I basically said, you got to, whittle this whole thing down. You don't have the time and money and, cycles and brain power to address all these different products. You need to center on one product and go away and write a business plan for that. And I didn't hear from them for 4 or 5 months, and pretty soon they showed back up, and they moved in. And so the rest is history. They've got a patent for the device. They filed for 2 more patents. They're the only company that can put a vest with a rebreather in it for land-based applications. So firefighting, there's all kinds of high rises you can imagine. People in high rises where there's a fire, it's the smoke that kills you. Right? So I think that's going to be a winner. And they've moved out. They've got a manufacturing facility now. They're gearing up for sales all over the world. So, and one other thing I didn't mention earlier, that one of the challenges we have at Tech Farms is we have lots of techies that come in, but nobody knows how to do marketing themselves. And they don't want to go out and engage, the customers. And if we could solve that problem one way or the other, we tried to hire a salesman. That hasn't worked too well, but that's a challenge. The techies especially are not good at selling what they have.
Probably need some old gray-haired guy that wears his
I'll share a couple. Jellyfish Health, which came into the center mainly because their mission, while they had a application for doctor's offices, when you go to the doctor's office for an appointment, the doctor wants you to be there for your appointment. They'll charge you if you're not, but you can go to your appointment and you can sit there for 3 hours waiting on your doctor, and there's no rebate to you from the long time you spend in the office. And they have an app for that. So it was most definitely something that was I felt a strong ability to be viable, scalable, and it was technology. So it kind of checked off all the boxes. They talked to every opportunity they could in the area, because their main goal, as I initially said and didn't finish, was to be part of the ecosystem. They wanted to be part of the entrepreneurial pool of things going on, because one of the players in the organization started at his first company through an incubation program. So he believed that that was something that he should continue and help to make sure that it grows on. And they moved out. They came into the center with one office and 3 employees. They left with 30 plus employees and 3 offices. And again, we had the blank space, no labs, but all they needed was tables and computers, and they were good to go. So they're still going strong. I have another company. It's called Curiosity Marketing. They came to us as an idea because 3 players came together and decided they wanted to put a marketing firm on the ground. And we were looking at being able to offer mentoring on the sales and marketing side of things to our people in the BIC, and we wanted someone who was strong in those topics. So we thought, let's do this together. And it ultimately, through the discovery sessions and all those first meetings, that we discovered that the players really, truly should have not been together. They were playing 3 different roles, and they were not going to put on that common hat and be a company. So the first difficult job for us was to decide that it was a guy with an idea and then 2 other people. So the one guy came into the center with his concept, and he graduated from the program, left with 5, 6 plus, is now located in the downtown corridor, is doing great, has actually signed on with a visual company out of New York. So he has the visual goodness arm tied to Curiosity Marketing, and they're doing phenomenal work now.
Okay, I mentioned the aircraft, anytime aircraft. In fact, I'm guilty. I need to go back. It's been about a year since I've talked to him. At that point, he hired 8 people with salaries over $50,000 a year, which is unusual for the Panhandle, or in the flight instructors and manufacturing. And another one here, also in Fort Walton, is this young lady and youngest relative. She came to me and she had this. She'd lost her child in sudden infant death syndrome. So she had come up with this idea for a thin, flexible, flat panel screen that could go over the crib that also could be used to stimulate the intellect of the child and be a monitor and so forth and so on. And I used to run a development team at IBM, and so I knew that this was a major undertaking. But it's not my job to tell them they can't do it. It would be like a $50 million to get it anywhere, right? So after a couple of weeks, she comes in, she goes, Mr. Foster, she's in Mississippi. She says, Mr. Foster, this idea of mine is kind of like a bad oyster. She says, the more I chew it, the bigger it gets. So I said, well, what are you going to do? She says, well, I don't know. And I said, well, why don't you, at the landing, I said, why don't you go down there and sit on the beach, the landing, and have a margarita and think about it. So I see her go down there. She gets a lawn chair, and she buys a margarita from across the street. She sits down, this great big gust of wind comes up and blows everything over in the sand. She comes back in, I won't tell you what she said. She said, you think somebody invented a damn table would blow over on the beach? And I said, really? That sounds silly, right? Because I got all these technical people there. She said, I'm going to make a table that doesn't blow over. So she goes to Home Depot, she gets some PVC pipes and sawn glue and stuff. And it's a little table, the hollow legs come out, but you put the legs in, push it down sand, you pour sand in the legs, it doesn't blow over. She put a solar cell on it so you can charge your phone, put a little basket underneath. And so I encourage all my students to compete in their pitch contests. And so the day that Lloyd Richard, one of my students, and Vicki Patterson, one of my students, won, she competed and lost. So she comes to me and she goes, Mr. Foster, I apologize, I didn't win. She said, but this nice old man came up to me and he said he really liked my table. And he told me his name. And I said, well, how will I find you? He said, the old man laughed. He said, you can find me. It was Quint Studer. So I'm telling you a story this way because I want her to succeed, because everybody can relate. This is the salt of the earth woman. Okay. So I set up a meeting with Quint Studer. She's going broke. She's working 2 jobs, waitress, can't pay. Sorry for the long story, Pat. So we go in to meet Quint. And I said, you do not ask this man for money. Everybody asks Quint Studer for money. We go in there, and once he figured out that I was basically, because I look like New York, I know, but he and I, actually, he's a nice person. we're having this great conversation. He's saying, now you listen to Mr. Foster and and you can see her, she's doing this. She wants to get some money. So I said, Mr. Studer, may I ask you a question? I'm going to ask you the question that Samantha wants to ask you, but is afraid to ask you. And I can see him, he's like this. I said, can you tell me where in Pensacola I can go to find Samantha a partner? And he goes, she's sitting right next to him, and wrote her a check. Blue Wahoos have placed an order. She has them manufactured in Pensacola, Florida. She's assembling them in her house. She has 700, she has pallets, tables in her house in the bar. And she's now going for a second round of funding that I introduced her to. So that is a bite-sized, understandable success that I've got to make sure that she's successful. So that's kind of, I know that's not that sexy, but it's jobs, and she now has one employee. So it's okay.
Thank you. Those are very inspirational stories, and I guess in the light of that, we got about 5-8 minutes, I think. Let me just skip through some of these questions because, again, you all have done a great job of really covering the waterfront on these questions. So, okay, here's a good question, which is there one thing that might be provided to your program to support it? What would that be? What's the something that you think is very important that's missing that would be gee, I really wish I had that. Bob?
More mentors. Absolutely gold. I mean, I want to tell you that I would say probably everybody in this room, you don't even know how much you know until you sit down with some of these folks. And the stuff that we take for granted, we need more mentors. And in fact, Pat and Robert and I had talked about starting an entity called Gray Matters in the Z, and just recruit people who are on call to be mentors. Because I'm telling you, it is just absolutely essential.
If you look at best practices as it relates to incubation, and I feel it kind of goes across the board as it relates to co-working or acceleration, mentors is going to be on that list. So spot on the mentors. We added, that's one of those things where if you when we first opened the Business Innovation Center, we had a pact with our mentors that if you sign on for 1 hour a month, we won't bother you on those other hours. So that's a very minimal allocation of time when you're looking at a very busy schedule. I know if I ask this guy and I just tell him it's 1 hour a month, I might get some yay. But if I tell him 3 hours a week, it's not going to happen. See? Example. So I was just testing you there. So we were able to build a really good, strong set of individuals who would, when called, answer from legal, from accounting, from all the business elements of putting a business on the ground. Where we fall short are the engineers because their hours are, I guess, less than other people. But when I'm looking at ways to stretch that, we have obviously turned to SCORE as an example on numerous occasions. There's 11,000 plus mentors across the U.S. that are open and available for startups when you're working with, and good chance of you finding some business that can correlate along what you're looking for. So we've been able to make a good set of tools for us through our mentoring program, but it's always something that's a challenge when you're looking for something, because a lot of times if they're coming to us, they're coming to us because they want to look at the person they're talking with. And that's the one thing you can't, I mean, you can Skype, but you can't be in the same room with a SCORE mentor like you can with an individual. So mentoring is a challenge, and also something that if I could make it magically happen, I would have more mentors in the manufacturing and engineering side of things.
product development?
I think the obvious answer for me would be we need more entrepreneurs. I think we all need more entrepreneurs across the region. Larger cities tend to have a lot more involved, so we're kind of smaller cities we expect to scale down. But after that, I think capital is the biggest thing I see right now. All the entrepreneurs I'm talking to, with the exception of maybe 5%, are looking for money. They're looking to execute their business plan. Some have reasonably good plans, some don't. But access to capital is killing us in the whole region right now. And I've seen in the last 3 weeks good ideas with good people are not going anywhere because they can't get initial funding just to get started. A lot of the companies that we've dealt with start with credit cards, and they do what you're not supposed to do. They sign up for 5 credit cards and they use one to pay the other. And they've started that way, but that's not really what we should be doing. So without doubt, capital, and that's where I'm spending 60% of my time. Justin Tate, who's here today, is someone helping me now. Justin has a background in finance, and he's very interested in the entrepreneurial areas. We're going to be doing a lot of traveling here in the coming months, but we're trying to solve the problem of getting entrepreneurs dollars to get started. And not all are going to be winners, we know that, but we've got to provide capital, or they're just not going to start, or they're going to go elsewhere.
It's kind of fun going last in the string, so it's like yes, 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 to all those things. The new piece I would add is that I think it's part of attracting more entrepreneurs. It's just, I see that marketing piece of sharing their stories and sharing our successes vis-a-vis the stories. And thank you for whoever asked that question, but vis-a-vis the stories of the successes of the companies that we serve. And so I think that that shifting our perspective to the entrepreneurial ecosystem being the connection of the entrepreneurs to each other and to resources, that is the view of what is the entrepreneurial ecosystem, that we as support organizations, we undergird that and we feed into that, but they are the ecosystem. And if we could just share that story better, if we could have that mechanism of bringing in those success stories, connecting all the pieces, asking all the right questions, I guess, and then sharing those stories as so that the salt of the earth individual can find themselves or see themselves in the story of the beach table, and your exiting Air Force Research Lab folks can see the opportunity through the rebreather, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that is that's kind of the key in my mind to stir up more entrepreneurial activity is sharing those stories and allowing people to see themselves in their in other stories. And then, hey, it worked for them to connect to this resource. Maybe I could have similar success, or maybe that assistance could help take my business to the next level.
Are we going to end with action items?
The chairperson of this is going to come up next.
Okay.
And that's a great suggestion. I'm sure he'll give consideration. I want to, if everybody would please join me in thanking all the panelists. Thank you. I think we covered almost everything on the list in one pattern or another, but we got that. And thank you for being here today and sharing your stories. Wes?
Thank you. Feel free to go ahead and you guys want to get up and go. Thank you so much.
I was younger before I sat down.
All right. So, to that point, Foster, takeaways. I know I had a few, but I really want to kind of pose this question to the group. Anyone joining us via the phone call or the live broadcast, what's next? What are some action items that can maybe be developed around these opportunities here to enhance these efforts?
I'd like to come up with a short list of companies, form 2-person teams, and go strong arm some of these CEOs to at least send someone from their staff from companies like, the companies, we can make a list, so that we get some business people in here engaged, because that's where most of the money is right now. And the second thing is someone's bigger than me needs to get somebody at the Northwest Florida News and the Pensacola News Journal and twist their tail, and they should be sitting in this room. Why aren't they here?
If anyone's calling on via the phone, can you put yourself on mute?
Great. Okay, so two good suggestions there. And anyone?
I think Jennifer asked a question, and she used that scary word, regional. The charters of some of our organizations, Florida West and CoLab, or Gulf Coast State College and Business Innovation Center, some of those charters sort of restrict regional efforts. And I've heard some magic word suggested in some quarters called articulation agreements. I don't know if that's a possibility, but it would be a creative approach to putting together a regional effort. And I guess I'm kind of thinking in the lines of a proposal that involves some funding resources that are unique to the Panhandle. Because I would love to see us able to replicate Million Cups, incubators, accelerators, innovation centers of some type, some flavor. Because I think we have a lot of resources that we're very spread out in a very low population density region, with the exception of the tourist season when everything is way too high density on 98. But it's just a thought. Just how do we cooperate in a more formal structure, if that's possible? I don't know.
To play, probably connected to that, I loved what Foster said about, what is our shared CRM? So whether it's a CRM or some type of virtual infrastructure, I know that the SBDC has their own version of it that they use. They already have a parallel regional presence. I know when we tried to implement a CRM, and I was with you, Kelly, on the Florida West team, and could we connect it to Gulf Power's economic development efforts? I mean, there are all sorts of nuances with privacy and sharing of information, but I so appreciate kind of the parallel that someone drew in the nonprofit sector. It can be done, and it is done well in other sectors. And so I'd love for us to benchmark maybe and do some research and explore how other regions or ecosystems have implemented something like that.
Great. Any other thoughts? All right.
Just want to make one mention. There's a site called veterati.com. It's free mentoring for veterans. Veterati.com.
Good stuff. Thanks for sharing. Well, appreciate that feedback there. That's going to be important to us as we kind of move forward. For Nacy and I to kind of help bring together topics and things that we discuss, research, action items that we as a group can work on to help move this effort forward. So appreciate you sharing those, and we'll certainly take a look at those. Along those lines, our next meeting here is May the 22nd. As previously discussed, that will be a deep dive into the K through 12 and post-secondary entrepreneurial related curriculum and or training programs. Talk to UWF, Center for Entrepreneurship, the SHU Foundation, and Escambia County. We have an Entrepreneurship Academy at one of the local high schools. Gulf Coast State College, their Business Innovation Hub. Also FSU, Panama City, their Innovation Hub. Are there others that you think of that we might need to hear about? We know we heard from someone about maybe junior achievement at the high school academy. Junior achievement is kind of woven into that program. They provide the curriculum there. So I think they'll be able to speak to some of the things that they're doing with junior achievement there.
Santa Rosa, I think, doesn't how they have a junior entrepreneur or something like that.
Yeah. Young Entrepreneurs Academy, but someone had mentioned that JA is going to take that over next year as their contract with JA runs out. So again, it could be that time there. A benefit to, or a unique feature of junior achievement would be that it's a opportunity, because I know that I struggle to engage entrepreneurs and mentors meaningfully. Junior achievement, their model allows mentors or those interested to actually come into the classroom to teach those entrepreneurial classes. So to me, it's a little bit unique. It does allow for engagement of business members to come into the classroom. But somebody told me that JA was going to take over that curriculum programming as well.
There's a middle school that one of the teachers is doing an idea pitch. It's pretty cool that she's gonna come out to, and like I'll find her name, send it to you.
Yeah, great.
But it's not system-wide, it's an individual, but maybe it's a best practice for others to look at how to inspire entrepreneurial.
Well, and I'm curious, is there somebody within, I know Stevie County, they've deployed maker spaces in all of the elementary school libraries. And so I would be curious if there's somebody whoever spearheaded that initiative, because it's, you know, as we're touring kindergartens, they talk about those maker spaces as, you know, an opportunity for kids to get hands-on, learn how to make something. So who upstream and what, you know, what are the premises of that?
So having said that, I know that in Panama State there was also Rising Leaders Academy, and we did a micro society program with them, but unfortunately they're not going to be able to attend on May 22nd. There'll probably be a lot of programs that we talk about that may not be able to be represented. What if we come up with the list and then at least take that tally and that assessment and provide the list, so that if we don't have everybody here at the table, we'll already sort of have a list of all those wonderful programs throughout the entire region.
I don't know, I'm gonna ask, do you think the other two programs, one is a national global program, Startup Weekend, it's post-secondary, you know, in that we have a focus at the College of Business at UWF for a lot of students. And the other thing that's really related to it is the Code Fest event at the University of West Florida, because that's the engineering students who are mimicking a startup weekend or a Hacking for Defense model, which is a Friday night to Sunday night rapid prototyping, business case, value prop, you know, kind of a deal, which is, again, it's an intensive training effort, and it's attracting quite a bit of interest in the College of Science and Engineering the last 3 years. The third one just ended, and it was the largest to date. So those are potentials. I don't know.
Can I suggest that perhaps the June 26th topic be the challenges?
Okay.
That's like something that would take 1 million cups startup weekend in academic and non-academic, but also the things that are external, like the guy that came and pitched to us that one time is one example, but there's also Unimod. There's all sorts of challenges where entrepreneurs here
that aren't necessarily curriculum embedded into course structures.
Yeah.
Do we not have a startup weekend group like Panama City too? So we don't have one in Okaloosa area though, I don't believe, do we?
Okaloosa.
Okay, so back to the regional effort, it'd be great to replicate some of these successful efforts into the center of the market.
Thank you for taking that role, Patrick.
I'm entire point on one county line away.
So does it also address Bob's aggressive approach to knocking down the doors of the CEOs, or however you mentioned it? Maybe the more diplomatic approach would be bring an entrepreneur to the next meeting. If each of us can bring an entrepreneur. I don't know. I mean, but something where there's, because to me, this subject matter, you know, is definitely of interest to those who are both interested in giving back and looking to locate somebody who's being trained in these types of skills. Could be a value, so maybe we
can get BAE to sponsor it. The defense company gets involved. Right. Well, bring an entrepreneur on. It's a pun.
Oh, I didn't even catch that.
Sorry.
Bring an entrepreneur.
There's some great characters here. Yeah. Well, good discussion. So yeah, we can kind of follow up on some of those things. I know Jim, you talked about June 26th topic possibly being the challenge. And I'll kind of follow up with you, maybe the challenge.
The overall ecosystem challenge, is that the or challenges specific?
No, like challenge events.
Challenge events, okay.
Challenge type events that are in the region and outside of the region. Maybe Lloyd funds his business through challenge, right? So
one of these days is going to work. That's always been long as I.
Good stuff. Well, appreciate the feedback. I think that's a great opportunity for us to discuss here as a team. Love the idea, Kelly. Bring a friend, bring an entrepreneur with you to the next meeting. Maybe it's another business leader, someone from the community. I think that'd be a great addition to the meeting. And we might have to move into a bigger room, who knows? And we can make those changes should we need to. Want to end on this slide. Again, thank you for being engaged and helping to make a difference here in Northwest Florida. I just want to kind of circle back. I heard someone mention that maybe a challenge is we need some champions. And I'd submit to you that I think all of us are really champions in our communities, in the region, to promote entrepreneurship here in Northwest Florida. So appreciate, again, your time, your experience, your engagement in this community effort. And looking forward to our next meeting. We'll be in contact, okay? You'll have a great day. Travel safe. Thanks.